All right, let's welcome in head coach of the Baylor Bears, Scott Drew here, the reigning champ. Welcome in. We got him here to preview his season. But first of all, I want to start with talking a little bit about last season. Just one quick thing. What did you do to celebrate after winning last year? Did you do anything special with your family or the team? What was it like?
Man, that is a great question. You know what we did? The best celebration was the victory parade. Our players, first of all, didn't know Waco had that many people. It was an unbelievable turnout. And then it was a coach's dream because we had all our past players. And then, we had some that were 85 years old walking with grandkids and families. So all the Baylor players from that laid the foundation for our championship, they walked first. And then it was our players and our staff. And that was by far and away the best celebration I could ever ask for.
What was like the coolest moment you had at the parade? Was it like a person you saw or a moment during it?
Well, that was the crazy thing is you saw all these people and how everyone was so excited, so happy to be there. People that hadn't been back to campus. You saw teammates that, man, I haven't seen you in 15 years. And they were just hugging. And then you're walking in the parade. And sometimes it's just awesome to be in awe. And what I mean by that is you're walking like there's so many people here. And the more you walk, the more people there. And it just got better and better and better. You're like, I can't believe there's this many people here. So it's like you got done and you're like, man, that was so cool. It's kind of like you watch it, go into a movie. If you know it's going to be a good movie, you're ready for it to be a good movie. But if you go into it not expecting anything, you walk out like, holy cow, that was so much better than I ever thought. That's how the parade was. And then we all went to a restaurant afterwards and ate together. And it was so cool.
With all those people, did your throat hurt from talking so much? How much did you talk that day?
Well, you know what? I've learned to have the Ricola throat lozenges during the games and everything. So I had some of them for the parade. And again, more than I ever imagined. And when you win a championship, I've just heard from other coaches, normally like you go celebrate right away. And we weren't able to do that because we had to go back to the bubble and we were able to see our families. But then you went back and you were with the team and you're just answering text messages. But when you got back and you landed and you saw a bunch of people at the airport and then you go to the parade and then you get the chance to share it with everybody, it was more than I ever imagined. So couldn't be more pleased. And as a coach, you're always happy when others are happy. And that's what made me most happy.
Right. And so after winning it all last year, expectations are still pretty high. You lost 4 starters this year, including Jared Butler and Davion Mitchell, and you're still ranked 8th in the preseason poll. What was your reaction after seeing that, if you had one?
Well, first, if Jeff ranks us high, that's a good thing because before we went on this run, he picked us higher than anybody else. And people were like, well, why are they ranked that high? And then after we ended up being that good, Jeff deserved and got a lot of credit for that. So to me, normally you win a championship and then it's a rebuilding phase. But we're really blessed because we got a chance this year. And as coaches, all you want is a chance. And you know how hard it is to go back to back. There's only been 2 schools, Duke and Florida, that have done it since the John Wooden days. So there's a lot of challenges to try to go back to back, but it's also a great honor and privilege just to have that opportunity. And we're excited about that.
And, the good news is that you return guys like Matthew Meyer and Flagler, Chamwa Chachua and Tomba, key players from last year. Everyone's expecting Meyer to take a big step this year. How has he looked so far in the scrimmages and just from what you've seen of him? What have you seen?
Well, and that's a big reason why people have picked us high and why your dad has picked us high is because we have enough returning players that you have the experience needed to be successful, but then you also bring in enough new players and new talent that give you a chance to have the depth to win. Starting with the returners, Adam Flagler, Everyday John, Matt Meyer, those guys were basically like starters last year. Flo Thamba is the only returning starter, but that gives you 4 guys that were basically like starters, are starters. So that experience really helps. Matt's gotten bigger, stronger. He's playing more intense. At the same time, he doesn't have to do it all himself because great teams have multiple players that can score in double figures, and we have that. He's concentrating on being a better rebounder. And we actually need him to be a better facilitator this year because he's really gifted passing the ball. And we lost 79% of our assists with Davion and Jared and Maceo and Mark. So we need his passing. We need his rebounding along with his scoring. Flo and John have gotten better. Our guys work too hard not to improve. And then the last one that was in that rotation last year was LJ Crier, and he really took a step forward. Had a foot injury, was out for about 8 weeks. But he's back, and I think he's going to have a really successful season as well. And that sums up the returners.
And so, along with the returners and the freshmen, you also were active in the transfer portal. You picked up James Akinjo, one of the better transfers from Arizona. What have you thought of him so far, and how do you expect to use him?
Well, James is somebody that had a lot of success as a freshman. He was Big East Freshman of the Year. Then he goes to Arizona, and he's first team All Pac-12. And James is really a competitive guy. He won the Peach Jam when he played AAU basketball, and you know how hard it is to win that tournament. So he's a winner. He's really been we knew he was going to be good, but I'll be honest, he surprised me. Just what a great teammate, what a hard worker, how fun it's been to coach him, everything. And I credit his past coaches. Coach Ewing, Coach Miller have done a great job with them, and those programs have obviously done a great job with them. But we're really excited to see him in the Big 12, and I think he's going to have a great year. And already in our first scrimmage, he had 9 assists, 0 turnovers. He's always been a scorer, but really proud of his progression and what he's been able to do. And then Dale Bonner is another transfer from Fairmont State, and we had Freddie Gillespie, who was a transfer from Carleton College, and he ended up walking on to last year started with the Raptors at the end of the year. So hopefully Dale can have some of that success. And again, somebody that has some talent that you can't teach, quickness, athleticism. He shoots the ball really well. So those two guys really help us get some experience and players that have some college experience with talent to go with it.
And you mentioned him before, sophomore guard LJ Crier. He's kind of a guy that hasn't been talked about much, but yeah. I know you played well in your scrimmage recently. He didn't need to play a whole lot last year, but this year I think you're going to need him to play. So how much of an impact do you think he can make this year? And what's his game like for people that haven't heard much about it?
Great question. And I think to start with, every day if you practice against Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, you are really going to get better if you have the right attitude. And really credit LJ. He was somebody that every freshman wants to play, but he got better each and every day in practice. And those guys really like him and have wanted to help him. And like they're constantly, when I talk to him, how's LJ doing? So they're excited to see what he can do. But he's a big time scorer, can really fill it up, and he's got elite speed. So when you have elite speed and you can shoot it, it makes you tough to guard. He's really improved his defense. And again, going against those guys every day and picking their brains, he's a real hard worker. And I think that's a common theme with our team. We have a lot of guys that work hard. When you work hard, just like you've gotten, you were good to begin with, but you've gotten a lot better at this interview stuff because you spend so much time at it, and we got guys that want to get better. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it. So then moving on to your freshman class, this is the most highly regarded freshman class you've had with guys like Kendall Brown, Langston Love. With Love out for this season after tearing his ACL recently, can you tell me what you expect from your freshman class this year? What are their strengths and their weaknesses?
Yeah, great question. So Kendall Brown is somebody that comes in and if you love highlights, you're going to love him because he's a Sports Center top 10 nominee. I love going to practice every day that he's out there because you're always one play away from a Sports Center top 10 nominee and high flyer, but he's really fundamentally sound and can really pass it, really plays within himself, can be an elite defender. And obviously, like I said, has athleticism you can't teach. A great teammate for all three of our freshmen, really hard workers, really humble, great kids you love to be around. They all room together. They all really like one another. Jeremy Sohan is another person, 6'9". Kendall Brown, 6'8". Jeremy's 6'9". He's athletic. He's skilled, has a good feel for the game, and somebody that wants to get better. And you love coaching and being with every day. And then Langston, feels so bad for him tearing his ACL, but he's going to work hard. He's going to recover, and he's going to have a great career here. And obviously, if you can say a prayer for him, appreciate it. He'll have surgery in the next week or two. And that's really hard for freshmen. That he won the championship at Mount Verde last year, beating Kendall Brown at Sunrise in the championship. So he's someone that's a winner and used to competing. But the other thing is we have another player from Sunrise, Jordan Turner, who's helped Kendall and made his adjustment easier. And Jordan's somebody that's really shot the ball well, and he's gotten bigger, stronger. And then we got two other inside guys, Zach and Dane. Dane redshirted last year, and he's got to compete against Flo and John every day, as has Zach Loveday. So we really got some size, and we get scouts all the time, and they're like, man, that size is great for your guards to go against. It's great for your bigs to go against. So the competitiveness we have in practice, and iron sharpens iron, is so important because you get better in practice in college. You practice a lot more than you play. So it's really important to have competitive practices.
And you've heard it here first. We're going to see Kendall Brown on the SportsCenter Top 10 every week now. I'm holding you to it right now.
Well, we got to get him healthy. That's the only thing. He's had a groin injury, and that's kept him out for some time. Adam Flagler's had an injury that's kept him out a little bit.
Right.
I was the LJ. So we've been banged up, and now Langston. So we might start off a little slow till we get everybody used to playing with one another. It's just like it's football season. If you got a great quarterback, but he doesn't get a chance to throw to the wide receivers and you put him out there, it takes a while to get that chemistry. So practice is so important. Hopefully we can get everybody back to get some practice time before we kick off our season.
So what is the key to this year's team making another deep run? Is it your health? What is it for you guys?
Yeah, I can tell you coaches are only as good as their players. And if they're not healthy, that really hurts. It's like football. If you have a team full of linemen and no quarterback, wide receiver, running backs, you're going to struggle, and vice versa. So we got to get guys healthy enough where we can continue to get better in practice and compete. So I always say there's three things you never know. One, injuries, how they're going to affect the team. And you look the last 2 years, we really been blessed. We didn't have many injuries at all. In fact, Jared, Davion, and Maceo, I don't know if they missed a practice. Maceo had hurt his hand at the end of his 2 years ago, and that kept him out for a little bit. But other than that, they always practiced. And then player-led teams are always the best, so you never know how the leadership's going to be. And then the chemistry, because you can have great leaders, but if you don't have great chemistry, it's hard to be much of a team. So we'll see how those three things formulate themselves. But if Kendall's healthy, he'll be on SportsCenter.
And now I have the most important question of the night, I think. How is the keto diet going for you? I know that your influence on my dad has really made it a struggle for me. You know, we have like no sugar in my house, very little bread. I am struggling here thanks to you. I'm not having fun.
Well, I apologize, but I rumor has it your dad's down 4 pounds already. So
Yes.
here's the key. If he can just get to where, like me, I just wanted to make sure I could fit my suits. And once I fit my suits, I'm back to normal. So my daughter loves crumble cookies and she loves the sweets, and she's been mad that I'm on this thing too. So I can promise you, if you can hold out a couple weeks, your dad will be back to normal.
Are you done with it now? A little birdie told me that on your birthday weekend, you know, you may have broken it. Are you back on it, or are you done?
It was really hard on the birthday weekend when everyone was giving you these sweets, and like, you know, like a good neighbor, you gotta partake in that. So I was off the wagon for the last week, but Tang has been doing, Coach Tang does, it's called Tang Keto. So he kind of blends his own little. So I'll probably do Druido, you know. So it'll be some and some. As long as I can fit my suits, I'm good.
Burrito sounds eerily similar to burrito, and I don't know if that fits with the diet, but.
Well, hey, keep encouraging your dad, because I can tell you one thing: the older we get, you can't eat what you used to, because when you do, it just doesn't come off, you know.
I think he has realized that. He's been trying. He's been doing really well. He's made it, I think, like over a week now. So
that's great. Yeah, they call him Dad Bods for a reason, you know.
Yes. And topped with the Peloton that we just got, you know, we're doing well here. But
yeah, the Peloton's legit. So you keep him on that. Let me know how if he ever wins a race, or he's top 5%, let me know, because that's legit.
It is. I think you guys have to go up against each other at some point.
Yeah. Now I don't give my password out to anybody.
Well, maybe we'll get you to at some point. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me. Really look forward to watching you guys this season. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thanks for having me, and hopefully we get you down to Waco at some point.
Yes, I will definitely get down there. Thank you.
That was Baylor head coach Scott Drew, and now I am thrilled to be joined by former Baylor guard and current ESPN broadcaster King McClure. King, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the actual Baylor season, you're calling games on ESPN this season, so I want to know, as you start kicking those off, what's the one thing that you're the most nervous about going on live TV and talking about basketball for?
I mean, in year 3, I feel like there's not really much to be nervous about. I feel like I'm just excited to get back out there. I mean, it's been a long off season. You know, we missed college basketball for about 6-7 months now. My Bears cut down those nets, and I'm ready just to get back out there, get back on TV, get back in my groove, my rhythm, and talk basketball, talk hoops.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I think this season I'm more excited about college basketball than I think for any season. Kind of in recent years. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I haven't been to a game in like 22 months. March 2020 was the last time I've been to a game. So let's talk about these Baylor Bears. They are coming off of a national title. Before we get into the specific team, I just want to know, like, you were part of that program. You were part of Scott Drew's building this up to the point from where it was when he got there to what it is now. Did you ever think that Baylor could be a program that could win a national title? But like, because I don't think a lot of people realize what it was when Scott Drew first got there.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I came in towards the tail end of everything. So when I first committed, I really didn't know what had happened back in the day until you get on campus, you're in meetings, and Coach Drew starts talking about the history, and he has former players come back, talk about the history. And I'm like, dang, this place was corrupt. This was a horrible place to be, right? But moving forward, just seeing how Coach Drew has evolved. And I think that's the one reason why I'm not surprised that he has a national championship now. He's evolved. A lot of times we talk about players and how players have to adapt to the game, but Coach Drew adapts to the game. You know, a lot of times back when I was playing, he'd like to run like 2 bigs and have almost not really high-low, but just feed the post a lot, right? So now he's more guard-oriented because that's what wins you championships. Playing on the perimeter, guards bring you wins in college basketball. And he realizes that. A lot of coaches get stuck in their ways because they're just so arrogant and just can't change their system. But Coach Drew doesn't mind. He doesn't mind listening to his assistants, hiring assistants that know what they're talking about, that can come change your offense. So I'm honestly not surprised.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys that made runs in the tournament last year. It was Paul Mills and there was another. Was it Grant McCaslin? Matt Driscoll. Yeah, he's been really good. Like there's a reason why Scott Drew's coaching tree has been so successful. I also think there's a reason why you see so many guys end up having success within the program that maybe came from places where you wouldn't necessarily kind of consider, like Macy O.T., for example, right, comes from the Big South. Same with Adam Flagler. He comes from Presbyterian. You kind of get into that culture, right? So what is it about that program and kind of the environment around the basketball team that Scott has built that allows all these guys to be so successful?
I think it's that motto that they preach called joy, that Jesus, others, and yourself. Coach Drew is a firm believer on that. That's not something for show. That's not a gimmick. That's not because Baylor's a Christian school, so we're just going to throw this out there and let everybody know what Baylor wants Coach Drew. That's who he is. That's who his staff is. That whole just being selfless, putting others before yourself. When you're on the basketball court, a lot of times you only care about your own individual statistics. Well, I mean, Baylor Coach Drew, he preached little things. Like we had some when I was there, it's called 95%. Because 5% of the game is scoring, 95% of the game is what you can do without the ball, right? And we used to track how many 95% that you would get during the game. Not how many points, Coach Drew didn't care about that. He cared about how many 95%. What little things are you going to do? Are you going to dive on the ball, dive on the floor for the loose ball? Are you going to take a charge, sacrifice your body? Are you going to cheer on your teammate? I mean, just little things. Like we tracked how many times you touch, you dap up, and you shake somebody's hand during the game. Like just little things like that, because they learned that teams who touch each other more are more successful. So they're like, hey, we got to start touching each other more. We got to start encouraging each other more. Like little things like that, just things that you think are silly, things that the outside eye is like, hey, it's probably not going to help you win a basketball game. But Coach Drew doesn't care, because it's all about putting others before yourself. And that's why so many guys are able to have success now.
Yeah, it's about developing that environment, and success is bred from the environment, right? Success is bred from the fact that those guys, like every college basketball coach and college basketball team is going to say, oh, this is my family, these are my brothers. But it felt real when guys at Baylor would say that, right? Like, I'm not right? Am I onto something here?
You could tell by the way them dudes played last year. And I know all those guys individually. I played with a lot of those guys. You know, Maceo Davion was there my senior year. They had to sit out though. I played with Jared, Matt, Flo. Those guys are like my little brothers. I mean, off the court, we're always together. We're always hanging out. We're always, just because we were that close. Like my senior year, it was literally a family. And I think that's why, even if you backtrack to my senior year, before the year they went number one and the COVID year, we overachieved. That team right there really wasn't that good. We lost to Texas Southern at home. We lost to Stephen F. Austin at home. Then we lose Tristan Clark, who was arguably the best big in America at the time, shooting like 80% from the field on like some super crazy stuff. Everybody says this is the worst Baylor team in history. Nobody came to the games, right? Then we end up finishing third in conference, making the tournament, which nobody predicted us to do, as an 8 seed. No, we were a 9 seed, because Syracuse was an 8 seed. Beat Syracuse, play Gonzaga. Could have beat Gonzaga if we would have had an answer for my guy who plays for the Grizzlies, Brandon, whatever his name is. Brandon Clark. Yeah, had we had an answer for him, could have beat Gonzaga. He had like 36 and 19. Like it was nothing we could do with him. That was young Freddie Gillespie. The Freddie Gillespie now would have done something about it. But we overachieved. And I think it was strictly because of the whole joy thing. My senior year, we had a choice. When Tristan Clark went down and we already lost to TSU and Stephen F. Austin, we had a choice in the locker room. It was either we're going to give up and just say whatever, or we're going to fight and we're going to do the whole joy motto, put others before ourselves and go win some ball games and believe in ourselves. We did that. And I think that really carried over to that next year when Davion and Maceo was stepping on the court and they replaced me and Makai. I mean, they saw how that year went. They saw the leadership. Not trying to like brag on myself, but they saw that and they were able to carry it over. And I think that's what really led to the success you see now.
Yeah, that year was really incredible, because I specifically remember the losses you had at the start, and then Tristan goes down. And we're like, yeah, this Baylor, they're not going to be very good. And then like Makai would miss games, and all of a sudden Devontae Bandu would step up and have 20. And then someone else would miss a game, and Freddie Gillespie comes in and has like 10 boards and 4 blocks. And it's just like there's a never-ending line of people on this Baylor bench that you've never heard of, but they're going to step in and perform. And that's actually a pretty good segue heading into this season. We've heard a lot of the guys, but Jared Butler's gone. Davion Mitchell's gone. Maceo Teague is gone. And Mark Vital is gone. And those are 4 very important pieces of that team that won the title. You bring in James Akinjo. You got Matthew Meyer back. Flo's back. JTT's back. There's a lot of good pieces coming back. But My question is, who's going to step up and kind of fill that like starring void,
Mhm.
right? Like we know that Jared was a superstar, right? We know that Davion was a superstar on the defensive end of the floor. We know that Mark was a superstar in his role. Maceo T, he was kind of like the third guy. He also hit 10 threes in a game, right? So who's going to step up and kind of be that guy this season in your eyes?
Yeah, so I think that a guy who I'm surprised is not getting much love this year because he's proven himself is James Akinjo. I mean, when you look at that guy's track record at Georgetown, he was getting buckets. He was absolutely dominant. Arizona, all Pac-12 team, averaging 16 and like 5, shooting 40 plus from the 3. One of the best point guards in the country, right? But he's not on the Bob Cousy list. He barely got any love in the Big 12 awards. And I'm really shocked because I'm like, do you not think this kid is good? I mean, now granted, his next step is winning. He has to learn how to win, but the kid is good. Individually as a player, I'll put him up against any point guard out there, right? And I saw him this year during the summer. I went up there, I was working out with them, trying to get back in shape. And I got to see him firsthand. And the kid can really hoop. I mean, he's fiery. He's a dog. He's going to compete. There'll be times me and him actually got into it because we both had those same type of personalities on the court. Just, you're not going to pump me. And he liked that. We would go at it. We would battle. And the kid is really, really talented and really good. And I'm surprised he's not getting much love. But that's a kid who I think can really step up. Will he replace Jared Butler and be an All-American? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to do, right? But he's really good. And can he be an All-Big 12 player? Most definitely. Can he help this team win some games? Most definitely, right? So then I keep saying right. I got to stop saying right. Why do I keep saying that? Anyways, then you look at Adam Flagler. Adam Flagler is an elite scorer. He is one guy who I think is going to take a major jump this year. When you look at what he did last year off the bench, you didn't really see much of what he can really do. Like nobody saw what he can really do. The kid can absolutely fill it up. He's a bucket getter at all 3 levels and can really, really play. And I think he has a good chance to really play at the next level. So when you look at those two in the backcourt, then you look at Matt Meyer, who's never started a game in Baylor, maybe one game, but he has started other than that, never played this starting role. And he could have almost went first round last year. He's that talented. 6'9", can play the 2 guard, the 2-3, can handle the ball, can shoot it off the bounce, can get to the rim and finish. He's athletic. I think those 3 guys right there I put them up against almost anybody in America. Not just because I'm a Baylor guy, but I do think that those 3 guys are just as talented as any 3 players in the country. Juzang, Jaquez, anybody.
I'm with you on Akinjo. I actually have him. It's kind of a hot take. It's kind of a bold take, but I have him as a first-team All-American heading into the season. Maybe not preseason, but I think by the end of the year he'll get there. Because if you look at the way that they played last season, right? The ball screen, spread the floor, get a guy, get shooters around the floor, get a point guard on the ball screen, let him come off, find JTT for a lob, find one of the shooters on the perimeter. Akinjo can make all those passes, right? Like he could throw that lob, he could hit the weak side corner, he could draw the defense and find someone on the strong side. He could go finish himself. And the biggest thing for him, right? At Georgetown, he was on a team that had we don't have to go into it, but a lot of issues off the floor at that time. He was on an Arizona team where you have one of the most competitive dudes that you're going to come across on a team with a bunch of like foreign freshmen, right? It was not the fit that he needed. I think that Baylor, the program, is the fit. I talked to Scott over the summer, and he said the thing about James is he's competitive to a fault, right? To the point where sometimes his teammates might think he's a bit of a, not the best teammate in the world, but it's because all he wants to do is win. And he got him in a program now where he's got a bunch of kids around him that all they want to do is win. So I think the fit in terms of the culture, the fit in terms of the style of play is just perfect for him. So I think he's going to have a huge year. I'm 100% with you there. I want to ask you about Everyday John, because I think he's the guy that really needs to step up here. From Freddie to Mark Vidal, like the emergence of Baylor going from being a good team to this can win the Big 12, can win a national title kind of a team has been that anchor defensive 5-man, right? Someone that can switch, someone that's going to protect the rim, someone that's a great athlete. And I think it needs to be JTT. I think he's the guy that needs to take a step on that end of the floor to kind of be I don't know if you want to call him like the paint eraser or whatever it is, but he's got to be that guy, I think.
And I think he can, because just watching him this summer, he has all the tools. I mean, the guy plays with a motor, and honestly, it's kind of sad because nowadays when you see a guy like him, you say playing with the motor, playing with high energy is a skill. I mean, I feel like that's something that should just be, the norm when you step on a basketball court. But it's sad that we have to come to a day where we have to identify what he does as a skill, which is playing super hard. So every time he steps on the court, he brings that same energy, brings that same intensity. He can step out and guard guards. There'll be times during the summer, I would be in there working out, and he'll ask me, "Hey, can you come play one-on-one with me and only play offense and let me play defense so I can work on my perimeter skills guarding guards?" Like he'll do that to me, and he'll literally set up workouts. So it was me one day, me, James, and I think LJ was hurt. It was me, James, and somebody else. And all we did was play offense, come off of a pin down, get the ball, and just ISO John and try to score on John. And that's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to guard us because that's how much he wants to get better and realizes how serious being able to switch on a point guard is to Baylor's success. So I think he can be that guy. I mean, just being so versatile because he can block shots, but he can also step over and take a charge. He's really good at sacrificing his body. And I think that's honestly harder for me personally, because if I know a big is going to come contest, then I can angle my body and try to get it up over him. If I don't know if he's going to contest or he's going to step in and take a charge, now I'm playing a guessing game in my mind of how should I finish this? But I think everyday John will step up and definitely be that guy for Baylor as far as the 5-man.
Yeah, I hope he is, man, because, I mean, he's such an easy kid to root for. It's a great story. And sometimes people forget. I think he's only been playing organized basketball for, 5 or 6 years, right? So it's he might be a little bit older in terms of age, but he's still pretty young in terms of basketball experience. All right, so Langston Love tore his ACL. Sucks. What are you going to do? Injuries happen, right? But let's talk about some of these other guys. Kendall Brown. We got LJ Crier, sophomore. We have Jordan Turner, a redshirt sophomore. You got the D2 kid coming in, I'm blanking on his name. You have Jeremy Sochan. Am I pronouncing that right? I hope so. Okay, so we got out of those guys, who are you kind of expecting to take a step forward? Who's looked impressive when you're working out with them? Give me some insight on some of these other guys.
I think the guy who I think needs to step up is LJ Crier. I think LJ Crier and Dale Bonner, the D2 kid. I think those two guys are at a place where they're kind of forced to step up, because with Langston going down, you were already kind of thin in the backcourt, right? So with LJ, you have to be able to step in and be that backup point guard, because James is not going to be able to play 40 minutes a game. And if you play 40 minutes a game, anybody who plays 40 minutes a game, their body's going to break down and not be sustained at the end when it matters the most. So you have to have that guy in LJ to be able to come off the bench, relieve James, and there can't be a drop-off. It has to be the same level of intensity because you have to play that for 40 minutes. So LJ, not only does he have to be able to score, he has to be able to become a leader and a point guard. Now, when I was down there, LJ was hurt, so I wasn't able to really see LJ become that. But I heard that he's starting to slowly evolve into that. If LJ can be a leader, that's a guy that has to step up. Dale Bonner, too. I mean, I think Dale Bonner has to step up and be that 2 guard. Because last year, Baylor went a lot of 3 guards. You really can't do that this year with the numbers. You have to play Matt and Kendall at the 3 more so this year. So I think that those two have to step up. Who's looked the most impressive to me this summer? I think the freshmen have. I mean, Langston was good, but Jeremy and Kendall just bring something to the table that you really don't see in a lot of freshmen. I mean, Jeremy played overseas for, I think, the last year, and you can tell he just has a mature game. At 6'9", he's able to make the right decision. He's able to know when to shoot, know when to drive. He can put the ball on the floor. He can really space it at playing the 4. You can maybe put him at the 5, maybe not because he can't guard 5s. But you can put him at the 4 and he'll be a floor spacer and he can really help you. Kendall is an athletic freak. Now, offensively, his game is kind of limited. He doesn't really have an offensive game, but just he's kind of like a Mark Vital. And don't quote me. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't quote me on that. But he's kind of like a Mark Vital in the terms of what he does on the court, what he brings. He's a relentless rebounder, and he's super athletic. Offensively, you don't know what you're going to get from him. You might get more from him than you got from Mark, as far as making free throws and maybe being able to knock down 1 or 2 open jumpers a game. But as far as rebounding the ball, you're not really going to keep him off the glass because of his want to rebound. So I think Kendall Brown and Jeremy have been the most impressive as far as the new guys.
Yeah, and having that kind of energy and switchability and toughness defensively, and guys where you don't have to question all of the other, like you mentioned, the 95%. You know you're going to get the 95% from Kendall. If he ends up scoring 10, 12 points a game, you're living in Goldenville, right? That's exactly what you want out of him. So, last thing I got for you. Every time I do a pod or do a show or do anything with a guy from Baylor, I have to ask for their best Scott Drew story, because I know everybody has a story where, he got pulled over when he was driving to see you. He drives on the shoulder instead of driving on the highway. He does something crazy in recruiting. Mark told the story about when he pulled up to Lake Charles to recruit him. So I need your best Scott Drew story. You've been around that program long enough. I know you got a good one.
Let's see. I remember there was one time we had just played a game and we had lost. We just played a game and we lost. It was at home. And I'm in the bed and I'm sleeping. This is like 1:30 in the morning, right? And I get a call and then my phone is like ringing loud and I get a call and this guy Drew and he's just like, "Hey King, what are you doing right now?" I was like, "Hey coach, I'm asleep like a normal person, right?" He's like, "Hey, so on this play right here, I'm watching this film. On this play right here, you didn't cut hard enough, and you really could have made it right here." I was like, "Coach, are you serious? It's 1:30 in the morning." He was like, "Yeah, for sure. I just had to call you and tell you and just let you know. We're gonna talk about this tomorrow, okay?" And he's full of energy at 1:30 in the morning, acting like he just had like 3 cups of coffee. And he's full of energy 3:30 in the morning or 1:30 in the morning. And I'm literally asleep. And he's talking about a basketball. And I was like, "All right, coach, bye. Like don't ever do that again." Like almost. But I have a lot of stories, but that was the first one that popped in my mind, because I was kind of crazy and absurd to me. I couldn't believe he did that. So
yeah, and it's not even something he probably didn't even realize, right? He was probably just like watching tape. And he's like, "Oh yeah, let me call King and talk to him about this one play right here."
I lost track of time and forgot. It was 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, sounds about right, man. My favorite thing about Scott is if you text him anything, he's like the one guy that is always going to reply emojis still. You're still going to get like the crying, laughing emojis from him nonstop. It's like he forgot how to type. It's just emojis, and he'll like your text message. That's about it. So, listen, man, I appreciate the time. And here's to hoping that we get another great season out of the Baylor Bears. It's fun when that program's good.
Of course. Thanks for having me.